Hi, my name is Lisa, and I will be your host for Care Team Chronicles. Today, we're going to be talking to you about men's health. And because I'm not a man, I'm going to get my friend, my colleague, and Realm of Caring's client advocate, Steve Bond, to help me out. Welcome, Steve.
Hey, Lisa, thanks for the talk today. Looking forward to diving into some men's health issues.
So, Steve is talking to us. One, obviously, he's a man. He's also worked with the realm of caring and the care, being part of the care team. So he's filtered and talked through many of our clients with their concerns regarding health and talking about cannabinoid therapies and other tools in his toolbox. And lastly, in Steve's personal life, he's had compounded losses that has really changed the course of his life and how he looks at health, and perhaps also has considered his very own mortality. So I know it's a little bit personal, Steve, but would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Sure. Thanks for that intro. Yeah, it kind of started in the core family, as most things do. My parents died rather early. My mother was 48 when she died. I was 15. My father was 64 when he died, and I was 25. So that, coupled with the fact that I'd only known one grandparent, meant we had a very, kind of a micro family, which enabled me to sort of at some point question what's going on here, and why are we a family who could have a family reunion in a booth at Denny's? I mean, just not too many of us. So I joke about it, but it's, that's how men's health copes with things. So in any event, that's the primary driver, was taking a look at all that and realizing something needed to change.
Mm. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know it hasn't been easy, and I also know that in life, it takes these kind of very painful experiences to sometimes get us to face our mortality or think about how we want to live. So tell us how this has actually put you on this path of
Mm-hmm.
health and wanting to outlive your parents.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. A lot of it, that, again, I gave a brief overview of what went really wrong, but the process of getting there was like anything, it takes time. And so what got to my parents were lifestyle choices, ultimately. My father came back from World War II. He was a bomber pilot and a prisoner of war. So he came back with they would now call PTSD, but really didn't have any thoughts on that, and didn't, it was just, sort of buck it up, soldier, and you'll be okay. And so that was a part of our family, and, very stressful situations all the time. And it caused my father to make very poor lifestyle choices and have to medicate heavily all the time just to be able to cope. And so my mother also, when she passed away, was primarily from smoking, and at a very young age. So all the information was there. It was just a matter of if I was ever going to be able to pick it up and decide to do anything with it. And so, I mean, I kind of describe my life as sort of encapsulated as, I was kind of a wounded kid. And then to solve that, I became a drug addict. And then I transitioned to more of a normal life, whatever that is, but practice mediocre health. So it took a long time to really get through to me that if I really wanted to live a full life, I had to make some changes and do things differently than those before me. So that came to starting to make wellness a priority. And then one day I had a wake-up call where I got in a head-on car accident, and I had to basically learn to go to the gym and do things like that, and take care of my body. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to walk. And so I finally had the why. And my hope for most people is they don't need that kind of why. I needed a head-on car accident to get me to wake up. So
So,
that,
in
mhm.
your opinion, Steve, what are some of the challenges that you feel men mostly face when it
Mhm.
comes to their health?
Okay. And so, and I can, just the source data I would use for that would be the people who call us and ask for help at the Realm Caring and the Care Team. Um, we have a lot of men call every day, and I think it's getting. I think I'm seeing a lot more men lately calling, and the core issues they come to us with are pain and anxiety, and then those would be the top two. A lot of what they deal with is that they let things go too long. Obviously, men were taught to be very stoic, and we wait to the point where we become 10-year-old boys, and and really suffering and just in self-pity, and finally willing to get help. And so that's a great place. I mean, and I wish we could all just get to a place where we would accelerate that. And we'll get into that in a little while in preventive stuff. But so other issues that men talk about are depression. um, One that hit home in my family was benzodiazepine or like tranquilizer dependencies. That was my father's issue. Opioid dependencies, which I flirted with after my car accident, and the 6 or 7 surgeries that came as a result of that. Um, and then men also will call on prostate cancer and various other cancers. A lot of prostate cancer calls of late. And the great thing is that they do call about cannabinoid therapy, and we're happy to help them learn about cannabinoid therapy, learn about homeostasis and how to balance one's body, and then specifically look at the potential benefit for symptoms, for resolving symptoms relating from those things we just talked about. And so we really enjoy learning more about people, their experience. I can bond with them because I've been around a while, um, and I seem to have gone through a lot of the same things. So men will open up to a stranger on the telephone, and especially someone with who, for me it works well because I've experienced a lot of what they're going through. So
Yeah, I was
those are the
about
key
to
things.
say, and
Mhm,
sorry to interrupt you on
mhm,
that point,
mhm,
but I've just noticed and was wondering if it's the man's partner or wife's calling, or if you get the actual men, because you did mention men being more stoic.
mhm,
And I would probably agree with you. I would wonder also if they call maybe at later stages in illnesses because they're not as maybe prone to opening up. I know as a woman,
mhm,
we talk about everything. We talk about what happens in our bodies, what
mhm,
happens in our relationships.
mhm,
There's no secrets, and that's how
mhm,
we get through life. We talk.
mhm,
Men, not so much the case. So,
mhm.
uh,
Sure.
are they the ones calling you, and at what point?
That's a really good question. And a lot of very loving wives or partners or whatever call and express, the desire to find something that will help for their loved one. I really try to say, can I talk to them? It's just, it doesn't translate as well. And we'll get someone else's version of what's going on. So, and also, I will find out if the individual is actually willing to do it or just sort of just like placating someone. So that's some of it too. But ultimately what I find out a lot is that you mentioned that, women's abilities and to converse with one another, work through things, talk about issues. We're not like that. We're back to stoicism. And I think because of that lack of the ability to work through a process and discuss things
Mhm.
of an emotional nature, I think that really definitely impacts all those underlying health concerns we talked about. And so, yeah, but so men are calling more and more. I've talked to some, especially in older men these days. It's pretty funny. They want to find out about this CBGB stuff or whatever, and it's fun. And so we have a chance to educate them and bring them up to speed with a new language. And it's like I am one of them, right? I'm a work in progress, absolutely. I'm working on trying to find an equality between mental, emotional health and physical health. and it's something I have to sort of take a look at every day.
Mhm. So, Steve, how do you help? What is it that you do as one of your well, you've had many roles, but the one
Mm-hmm,
that you're presently in
mm-hmm,
advocating for our
mm-hmm,
clients?
mm-hmm.
Um, how are you able to help with these particular issues that you mentioned?
Sure. So, I will say quite frankly, um, most people who call the Realm of Caring Foundation want to talk about CBD and cannabinoid therapy are looking for that one thing.
Mhm.
There is no one thing. And it is definitely something that can really help improve a person's health. And we, as I was saying before, we go through a process of listening to what they're going through, trying to understand their symptoms, trying to map those symptoms to um, what cannabinoid therapy can offer while setting reasonable expectations. Then we put the individual on a specific plan of action as far as what they're going to do in terms of taking the products, or first selecting the products rather, and then taking the products. How long, should they take it? Setting expectations of that whole process, and hopefully getting that call where we're hearing good results.
Hmm. So when it comes to preventative care,
Mm-hmm.
you have this great car analogy, and
Mm-hmm.
you say
Sure.
that it's cheaper to do maintenance than it
Mm-hmm.
is to do repairs.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
what are some of those maintenance issues that, or things that men can do to help
Sure.
prevent a lot of these illnesses?
Absolutely. Yeah, just to quote the commercial specifically, it was an Amco transmission commercial from eons ago. And the guy,
You mean that's not your quote?
yeah, no, I didn't make it up. I just stole it like all good quotes. But no, it was the guy said, he's over this guy's car and he goes, "Hey, you can pay me now or you can pay me later." So what it comes right down to is you can take care of your car, your body, do oil changes and stuff like that, or you can go to the repairman, which is the doctor. And, so I'm a much stronger proponent of trying to prevent things from happening and going wrong in our bodies before they have the chance to happen. There's some fairly controversial conversations going on around DNA, and it's in my genes and this, that, and the other thing. And I think we can impact most of what could happen to us by trying to practice positive plans for health, and we'll go through those in a moment.
Wonderful. And you said that you have a wheel that would make a great illustration. Would you mind sharing that with us?
Absolutely. I'd love to. We'll pop that up on the screen here. See if I can navigate this wonderful device.
I am sure you can. Better you than me.
Okay. Can you see that now? Okay.
Oh, I see it perfectly.
Beautiful. Thanks. Okay. So again, my qualifications are merely that I'm a work in progress. And as I was preparing for this conversation, I looked at this thing again that we created at the Realm of Caring. One, because I wanted to have a tool that would indicate that there's a whole lot of things that you can do instead of in just simply trying to attack it with CBD only. And so
Mhm.
there's a whole toolbox. And again, we don't talk to it to that very frequently on the phones with people, because if they want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. But we're here to answer questions about their cannabinoid therapy. But in this environment, it's awesome. And so you can see that the primary thing I would point out is in the very bottom is you see balance. And
Mhm.
so I think that's appropriately placed. And I alluded to that earlier with respect to finding the appropriate balance between physical and emotional, and the time spent. And as personally, I skew on the side of physical, and I need to spend more time on the other side. And so just going through it really quickly, not in huge detail, but cannabinoid therapy, as we talked about, and we mentioned it briefly. And for those who don't know, that can include CBD, cannabidiol, which a lot of people are using for a host of issues. And then also, as necessary, THC, which can be taken at the appropriate dose for an individual. A lot more people are taking it in a microdose form these days. And so that would be a very tiny psychotropic dose where you get the benefits, but you don't not impaired. And so I think it's a really brilliant way to go about it. The one thing that we really try to get across to folks with cannabinoid therapy, less can be more. And so it's really important to do that. Then jumping around on the wheel, healthy diet, eating fresh food and avoiding processed food. My kids used to give us grief when they were growing up that they go into our cupboard and they go, all we have is ingredients. My friends have food in their cupboards. And they didn't,
Yours and all of our kids.
yeah.
Yes.
And they weren't really buying the whole notion that, well, that is food. You just got to mix it up. And so, but that's where we came from, is trying to, try to avoid barcodes as much as possible. And, our diet has gone, more and more forward as time went. 12 years of vegetarianism, 6 years of just plant-based only. But that's not what I'm here to preach about. I'm here to preach about making positive changes with your diet and trying to eat as healthy as you can based on your circumstances.
So Steve, and I'm sorry because I don't have my glasses on,
Sure.
and this little print is so tiny,
Mhm.
but basically what I'm looking at, is this what constitutes a healthy lifestyle?
I think the total of the parts can do that. And it's, these are what originally we called just the toolbox, if you will. And
Okay.
these are the tools that people have available, in addition to pharmaceuticals and other things too, and cannabinoid therapy.
Interesting. Well, one other topic that I want to bring up, just because in women's health, this is such a huge topic, and a big part of our lives is going through perimenopause
Oh, yeah.
and eventually
Sure.
menopause.
Mhm.
We often, as women, feel that it's a bit unfair that with men, you don't seem to go through such harsh changes as we do. Is that right? Or do men go through a form of menopause?
I
I
think
mean,
you're
there is the name men in menopause.
I think we may be the cause. But no, there is. And
You
I
might
think,
not be wrong.
although it could be arguable that women absolutely have a considerably more harsh bunch of symptoms, it could also be stated that men do go through a form of it, and it actually has a name. It's called andropause. And
Mm.
that's usually caused by just the natural reduction of testosterone as we age. And I think, if I wonder why nature does that, I come up to the conclusion that I think in order to love grandchildren and love life and get to a place where we can be a little softer, I think that is part of what happens. But at the same time, it's not always fun. So obviously there are symptoms such as sexual issues and lack of energy, depression, irritability and mood swings, and loss of strength or muscle mass. A lot of those are shared, in addition to increased body fat and hot flashes, which is pretty
No
amazing.
way.
Yeah, yeah.
Men get hot flashes?
I mean, I personally have not experienced them. My goal is to not experience any of this, just simply because I'm trying to ward off the symptoms. And we'll talk what one could do creatively about that in a little bit. It's
And
simple.
not that I wish it on men.
Hmm.
I don't wish
Right.
it on anybody, but I'm
Sure.
just curious,
Mm-hmm.
right? So men can have a hot flash, you're saying.
That's what the literature says. And like I said, I'm fortunate. I've never really experienced much of this, but what I do know that there's a way to perhaps lessen the severity of that, I think. And exercise generally can raise testosterone, because it promotes the building of your muscles, and the more muscles you have, the higher your testosterone levels. So although they are going to be diminished, you can try to keep as much as you can and try to make this a better trip for yourself. So it seems somewhat straightforward, but I'm sure there's a lot of people who do everything, but it doesn't work for them. But I think that there is a way. And as we talk through the other things on the positive health habits we were talking about, we'll dive into some more things that a person can do to just to try to remain strong. And we haven't really even talked about homeostasis yet, which is ultimately the balance of everything in your body that gives you the best fighting chance of dealing with all those things that may come your way.
And how realistic is homeostasis when life itself is so unbalanced? Our bodies are forever fluctuating and changing and adjusting. I mean, we're fortunate we live in these incredible machines, if you will.
Mhm.
How often do we really achieve homeostasis?
You know, it can be a challenge. I mean, and you just really kind of nailed the whole definition of homeostasis. And that is basically, it is the ability or tendency to maintain internal stability in an organism to compensate for environmental changes. So in other words, your body is always trying to adjust to everything that's going on around you. And if you are able to feed that balancing mechanism, then I think you can live a life that's a bit more like that.
Wonderful. So to wrap up, tell us
Mhm.
what men can do
Mhm.
to
Sure.
achieve optimal health. Because
Sure.
we like men. I like men. I want them to
Mhm.
stay around.
Sure, got it. So again, we'll go back to the wheel just for a couple minutes, and some of these are fairly obvious, but this is just going to be a reminder, and then I'll have a little call to action at the end. So we all need to sleep well. We all need to hydrate well, exercise reasonably, get the appropriate levels of medical or dental care, which I don't care for, and most guys don't. But I look at it as so I can get a report card that proves I'm doing everything right. And so
Mhm.
I really like looking at it that way. And I get that printout and it's like, wow, I'm slaying it. So I think it's a possibility. On the other side of the wheel, things like spirituality, however you choose to practice is great. Having a team to support you in that endeavor and through your work and everything like that too. Giving back, really important. I joined the realm of caring by being a volunteer. So giving back led to my being here today. So that what a blessing. And it's generally gratitude really that leads to all that. And then practicing creativity. I have a hard time finding time for that. I love photography. And I also am a very, very, very amateur drum player, but I will bang along and drive everybody crazy. And it makes me very happy. And then also, making sure you're taking care of your relationships, maintaining healthy friendships and romantic relationships are super important. And then back to the top, cannabinoid therapy, which we know can help to lead to that balance we talked about called homeostasis.
That's a lot of things.
Sure is. So let me see if I can grab put us back on. There we are. Okay, and then we'll take a look at some other action items if that's okay. All right. Okay. So basically, going back to the prevention piece, which is the maintenance over the repair. So after we looked at the whole toolbox, what I would sort of want to point out one thing. I think the fuel you put in your body is really underestimated. If you put bad gas in your car, you're going to run funny. So pay attention to what you're eating a lot. And I think that's a really great, if nothing else. The famous Hippocrates, who was the old Greek physician in ancient times, said a lot of things about being a doctor and stuff like that. But the quote I love that he said, and I think it's true more than ever, is let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. And so it
And
really,
I'm
really,
going to interrupt you because I want to add one little thing to that, and
please
I
do.
agree with you. Food definitely is our form of gasoline. It's also in the spirit that you put that food in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been studies that have shown this. So I often say that if you're going to have a triple decker ice cream sundae, then eat it with joy.
Mm-hmm.
There's you could eat a salad every day and eat it begrudgingly and it wouldn't do your body any good.
Sure.
So I feel that whatever diet you're
Mm-hmm.
going to adopt,
Mm-hmm.
eat it joyfully.
Absolutely. I think that the two things that are super important is eat meditatively, I guess I would say, is just really understand and appreciate your food, and don't put ridiculous constraints on yourself. Again, I'm a work in progress, and what was it? Yeah, I had half a carton of cashew milk ice cream the other night, and it was great, and so it really was. But so I'm not talking about being this is progress, not perfection. It has very little to do with executing perfectly. But I think that, if your core plan is health, and you're on point, and you're eating a very healthy diet, I think that, those things are absolutely possible. And I think the dividends are just incredible in terms of your health. And I honestly believe that's where I get my energy, and which again is enough to drive most people crazy. But
I agree. No, I'm
yeah,
kidding.
yeah. So, one other thing I do want to acknowledge right now is that COVID-19 has caused a lot of changes in our lives, in many different ways. I struggle with maintaining relationships. I struggle with really missing my colleagues at work and having to do this kind of stuff. But it's a great opportunity to get together. It's not the same though. And so, there's been a lot of really harsh changes because of that. But there's also been a lot of positive changes I'm thinking we may have made. And so I think the call to action really is based on having to stay in our houses and do these things. It's possible that some bad habits came out and some good ones. So
Mhm.
grab onto a couple of good ones and see if you can carry those out into the future, whatever that may look like. And I think that requires the setting of goals and some repetition. And I think that ultimately that enables us to live a long, healthy life, instead of a life that's just fraught with sickness and just hanging in there and being a patient.
Yeah, definitely it's not how long you live, it's the quality of your life while you're
Mhm.
living it, I'd like
Mhm.
to say. But
Mhm.
if you can have both,
Mhm.
then that would be ideal.
Sure.
Steve, what a pleasure. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad that you've joined us
Mhm.
and that I was allowed to host this segment. Um, it's such a joy to talk to you. We've had many wonderful conversations in the past, and I hope they continue into the future. Thanks for all that you do with the realm of caring with our clients and our community. You're very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the very best. And I wish everybody the best of health. The realm of caring, we're all about quality of life, and so reach out and call us. You can also find that wellness wheel on our website under printable material, so you can just print it out and take a look at it and remind yourself that there are some healthy habits you could accumulate.
That's right. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great day.